President Francis, explain the inspiration behind convening the first ever UN Sustainability Week with the theme Paving the Way of a Sustainable Future.
It's really quite simple. The General Assembly had mandated that during the 78th session, we should give consideration to a number of issues that are really germane to the issue of sustainability. And these are certain economic sectors that all countries have. And so we decided that it would make good sense, rather than having individual meetings, it would make sense to amalgamate them, since the central unifying theme is sustainability, and create a week-long event out of it.
How did you come up with those 5 targeted sectors? Is that something that all of the stakeholders can rally around? Is that something that they all have in common?
Well, let's go first to energy. No modern economy can operate effectively without it. Energy drives industrial development. And so, of course, we know that in the 21st century, energy creates something the economists like to call diseconomies, which creates additional problems for us in terms of climate change. We know, for example, that the month of March was the hottest month on record. That has everything to do with the rate at which we are carbonizing the atmosphere. But apart from that, most countries, some more than others, have a tourism industry. And so tourism is one of the sectors. No modern economy can operate and be efficient without transportation. Transportation unifies markets, brings people together, facilitates the transfer of goods and service between the countryside and the city, connects countries with through international trade. Debt sustainability, which is a big one in the room, is an issue that affects and confounds many countries in the United Nations, particularly the most vulnerable ones.
You also have a hashtag, Choose Sustainability.
Yes.
It's a choice.
It's a choice. Absolutely. Sustainability is a choice. It's important that when we are making these decisions, we spare a thought for the impact of what we are doing on other people, on the society, on the environment, and on the future. If you drive your car to work every day, you might decide to commit to taking public transport 1 day a week, because in doing so, you'd be lowering your carbon footprint. That's a sustainable action. Think of what it means when you use, for example, a single-use plastic vessel. What happens to that plastic? Well, the science tells us it will end up at the bottom of the ocean, eaten by the fish in many instances. And of course, in the food chains, humans are at the top. We then eat the fish. The plastic gets into our bodies. They affect the functioning of our bodies. The science has shown us that if we continue on this trajectory of plastic use, single plastic use, there will be more plastic in the ocean by 2050 than fish. So when we go fishing, we'll actually be going fishing for plastic. Can you imagine that? And so living sustainability is living responsibly.
Part of this is also advancing the 2030 agenda. And we know that there are many countries still struggling to make a dent in their goals.
Yes.
What can be done to help those countries find success?
We have a plan. But in order to implement, the plan has to be financed, because the Sustainable Development Goals are asking countries to undertake reforms, to reform their procedures in order to take us to that place called sustainability. But that costs money that most developing countries, particularly those in special situations, simply cannot afford. They do not have the resources domestically. Part of the reason they don't have the resources is because they are heavily indebted to the multilateral development banks and to the private banks. Their own development, therefore, gets compromised because once they pay the debt, they are unable to invest in education, in health, in national security. And so part of what needs to happen is that the international financial architecture needs to take account of this. It needs to be reformed in order to make it less onerous, less burdensome for developing countries, in particular those at the bottom.
How would you measure a successful UN Sustainability Week, and what do you hope attendees take away from this event?
What I hope attendees will take away is the fact that they have the power in their own hands to a significant degree. They have the power to make changes that would benefit the entire planet. Many of them need support, and this will call attention to the fact that they need support. They have legitimate needs for support because they cannot do it on their own. But when they are unable to do it, if the system is to work really well, we need all hands on deck. And so if some countries are unable to do it or are excluded from the capacity to do it, it means that we will not be able to achieve our goal. Because the goal is leaving no one behind. Every country in the world needs to make a contribution to the 21st century development model of sustainability. It's the only way, for example, that we will be able to manage, notice I did not say solve, manage the climate crisis. Everyone needs to make a contribution because it affects us all. And notice I'm speaking in the present tense, not in the future tense, because we are living a climate crisis now. So this is urgent. That's the urgency. We need to take the actions that we know will strengthen our capacity to withstand the shocks and stresses that come inevitably with a highly carbonized atmosphere. And so that's the message of sustainability. Let us take control and start to take those actions now while we still can.
UN General Assembly President Dennis Francis, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here.